Let's jump right in. You probably spend way too much time trying to be a quote-unquote good person, right? You know the drill, saying yes to favors you literally don't have time for, politely chuckling at jokes that just aren't funny, and biting your tongue when someone is driving you completely crazy. But what if all that exhausting effort is actually ruining your life? Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a fascinating modern parable about the hidden and honestly toxic costs of simply being nice. Seriously, take a quick look at your own life for a second. We've got a terrifyingly short amount of time on this planet. So why do we waste so much of it plastering on a fake smile and swallowing our true feelings? I mean, we all kind of operate under this assumption that being agreeable is the absolute moral high ground. We completely exhaust ourselves keeping up this facade, leaving us totally drained and frankly unheard. But when you step back and actually ask why we do it, well, the answers get a little uncomfortable. To really get this, we've got to zoom out and look at the sheer absurdist cosmic hook of our whole situation. If you think about it, we are just these tiny, conscious little beings, magnetized to a strange, lushly coated wet rock that's just floating in endless nothingness. It sounds completely ridiculous when you put it like that, right? But it really highlights how absurd it is to spend our miraculous, incredibly brief existence obsessing over managing other people's minor discomforts, totally at the expense of our own authentic experience.
And that brings us to the core concept here, the politeness poison. It's this jarring realization that niceness often isn't a virtue at all. In fact, it's frequently just a form of strategic selfishness. It's a habit that can slowly, quietly destroy your relationships and your sense of self. It parades around disguised as virtue, but underneath, it's really just driven by a desperate desire to avoid the uncomfortable effort of actually being honest.
Okay, so to see how this poison actually plays out in the real world, let's look at a guy named Fred. We all know of Fred. He's the guy who has literally never started a fight. He always puts the needs of everyone else before his own. Yet, despite a lifelong dedication to being the nice guy, Fred wakes up at age 28 feeling completely unfulfilled. He finds himself stuck in what's described as a deep crater of incongruency. He finally realizes he's traded away his own peace of mind just to get the approval of people he doesn't even actually like. It's fascinating and kind of tragic to see how this poison compounds over time. Like when Fred was just 10 years old, he was hanging out with his first real friend, Aubrey. Aubrey wanted to watch Star Trek. Fred hated Star Trek, but he said, "Oh yeah, it's my absolute favorite." He thought he was being nice. But by his preteens, he had built up this secret harbor of frustration and eventually just ghosted Aubrey completely, leaving his friend totally confused. And this pattern, it just kept going. Fast forward to 25. He gets into a 3-year relationship with a girl named Tara. He prides himself on being the easygoing boyfriend who never argues. But because he never actually spoke up about what bothered him, he dug that deep crater of incongruency by age 28, which ended in a spectacular, disastrous breakup. So here's the really harsh truth of it all. Fred wasn't actually being selfless when he kept his mouth shut. His niceness, it wasn't for Aubrey's benefit, and it definitely wasn't for Tara's benefit later on. It was 100% for Fred's benefit. He was simply trying to protect himself from a difficult conversation. He was dodging the minor discomfort of conflict, and by doing that, he completely deprived his friends and partners of any genuine connection with the real him. You know, we so often mix up niceness with kindness. But as a character named Amina points out to Fred in this story, they are actually complete opposites. Niceness is just submissive self-surrender. It's staying quiet because you're scared. True kindness, though, that is the brave willingness to step up, confront, and deal with issues honestly and fairly for everyone's benefit, even when it is incredibly uncomfortable to do so. Actually, especially when it's uncomfortable. To really understand the mechanics of why we do this to ourselves, we can look at Carl Jung's psychology. Jung talked a lot about the persona, basically the mask we wear to show the world the character we want them to see. When we become obsessed with being perceived as nice, we're actually operating from a place of deep self-centeredness about that mask. We filter out all the messy, undesirable, confrontational parts of ourselves and shove them deep down into what Jung called our shadow. And for so-called nice people, that shadow quietly fills up to the brim with massive amounts of repressed resentment and anger. Think about it this way. If you are universally nice to literally everyone all the time, you're actually sending out a very specific and pretty selfish signal. You're signaling that you care way more about your own image, about what people think of you, than you do about the actual truth of the relationship, or how your actions truly affect other people. You're basically putting your shiny persona right ahead of the very people you claim to be accommodating. And look, this isn't just some abstract psychological theory. It plays out in really destructive daily habits. Ultra-polite people who avoid the truth, they constantly end up overpromising and underdelivering because they literally cannot bring themselves to say no. They flake on plans, they leave people completely in the dark about their actual feelings. Ultimately, it's just a way of throwing each day straight into the trash can of wasted time, simply because you aren't actually showing up as your authentic self. I want you to think of your life as just a single frame, a number one, in a giant cosmic movie that never ends. The math on this is pretty clear. Our time here is terribly, terribly short. We simply do not have the luxury of wasting it suffering from this politeness poison. Because in the grand scheme of things, the universe really doesn't care about your polite smile. It doesn't care about your social standing. Eventually, every single one of your deeds will lose its name tag. They just won't matter to anyone or anything. But hey, don't let that bum you out. That shouldn't bring despair. Honestly, it should give you this immense, profound freedom and inspiration to just be entirely honest right here, right now.
So how do we actually fix this? What's the cure? Well, here's the antidote. Step 1, you've got to accept that you are not as good as you hope you are, and understand that is perfectly okay. Step 2, integrate that shadow we talked about earlier. Actually process your resentment instead of burying it alive. Step 3, instead of defaulting to nice, choose to be honest, compassionate, and brave enough to actually have those hard conversations. And finally, step 4, commit to being true to yourself consistently over time.
By being willing to confront the world exactly as you truly see it, you can finally step off that exhausting, endless treadmill of needing everyone's approval. You can stop running in circles for people you might not even like. And instead, you can start experiencing this weird, wonderful rock we live on with total, absurd clarity. As we wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with a question to mull over in your own life. Think about your daily interactions right now. Think about your relationships, your obligations. In your incredibly short life, where are you still sacrificing the truth just to be nice? Where are you still hiding behind a polite smile? Remember, do not let someone else dictate what you want. Be brave, have the hard conversations, and most importantly, be true to yourself.